Parents, attorneys, and more say current juvenile justice laws aren't working. New today, why one lawmaker says Maryland should stay the current course. Then, people in Baltimore say cars are being stolen, taken for joyrides, then dumped under a highway. Our team is pressing BPD, asking what they're doing to address the issue. As Baltimore's mayoral race heats up, crime continues to be the top concern for residents. Next at 4, we examine if voters are leaning towards the incumbent or the competition.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We have breaking news as we come on the air at 4 o'clock. There's been a deadly explosion at the northern U.S. border. This is a live look at the Rainbow Bridge crossing, which runs over the Niagara River into Canada. Now, the FBI is investigating. It happened on the U.S. side of the border. The witnesses say that a car sped towards the crossing, swerved, then crashed into a secondary area and exploded. The 2 people inside of that car are dead, we're told, and the border crossing has been damaged.
Now, all 4 border crossings in the area have been shut down as a precaution, and the nearby Buffalo Airport is pausing international flights. Coming up at 4:30, we're talking with the Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert about what may have happened. In the meantime, we'll keep you up to date with the latest on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
We're following 3 big stories tonight. Lawmakers in Montgomery County are urging patience on juvenile justice policies as the surge in youth crime continues, while others say the state can't afford to wait for change.
Stolen cars dumped under an overpass, pressing police for answers on what they're doing to protect your property.
And the mayoral race is heating up.
System can provide them. And so I think resources have been cut. That's a budgetary issue. As you know, we'll see what Governor Moore's budget says.
Mackenzie Frost also pressed Governor Moore on the issue. He said he'll have a plan to address juvenile crime, but it's not clear when the specifics will be released.
State lawmakers will hold another juvenile crime hearing in December. We'll bring you the latest on the results of that hearing when it happens.
That brings us to our question of the day. If lawmakers don't address juvenile crime, will you support them in November? We just opened the poll. To make your voice heard, go to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Car thefts are on the rise in Baltimore. There have been more than 9,700 cars stolen in the city. That's more than triple the amount seen last year. It seems kids are helping drive those numbers up, according to police. Officers say car thefts committed by juveniles are up 166%.
As Baltimore's stolen vehicle crisis continues, some residents aren't waiting on police to find their cars. They're actually going out looking for their cars themselves, and several have ended up at what seems to be becoming a popular dumping spot. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has more on where these cars are showing up in southwest Baltimore. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, if you drive over a bridge like this one, you could be driving over a graveyard of stolen cars and not even know it.
Just under the noisy traffic of Interstate 95 sits a no dumping sign, but for car thieves.
No surveillance.
This underpass near Mayoral Park, a dumping ground for stolen cars. These pictures posted to social media showing several stolen Hyundais and Kias, posted by desperate owners in search of their vehicles.
I used to live down one of these blocks where there is a dead end.
This woman, who lives in the area, not wanting to show her face,
They used to run them into the Jersey walls.
but says she's seen several stolen cars dumped by the overpass.
Crime's illegal, except in Baltimore.
Marcus Strider of the Guardian Angels patrols the Mayoral Park area.
Think about this. We're almost 10,000 stolen cars. 10,000 stolen cars in Baltimore.
The latest BPD data shows 9,720 cars have been stolen as of November 11th. The most current data not released until next week.
You would think that at some point when you steal 5, 6 cars, okay, we got a bump, we got to do something a little bit better.
Fox 45 reached out to BPD about the cars posted to social media and asked the following: have the cars been confirmed stolen? Did officers recover the vehicles? And will BPD be patrolling the area given that cars are being dumped there? So far, we have not heard back.
This is insanity. This is madness. This is repetitive. It is escalated to a point where it's a national embarrassment.
And of that 9,720 cars stolen this year, 452 have been taken in carjackings. In Baltimore, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Car thefts aren't just a Baltimore issue. Communities across the state, in fact, are trying to get a handle on the rise in thefts with events like these. A steering wheel lock giveaway in Baltimore County. Kia and Hyundai owners lining up today to get those locks. Those cars have been a target for thieves due to a flaw in their security systems.
Well, this month, Mayor Scott released an action plan to address the spike in car thefts. The initiatives include multiple steering wheel lock distribution events, system upgrade clinics to improve security in Kias and Hyundais, distributing GPS trackers for city residents to put in their cars, and expanding the city's network of license plate readers. And while the mayor claims the new plan is part of a year-long effort to fight the spike in car theft, some city leaders are taking issue with what they see as a lack of action. Councilman Eric Costello last week criticizing Mayor Scott for not taking more aggressive steps to protect city residents' vehicles.
There's a complete lack of urgency on issues plaguing our communities. Why wait until we reach nearly 10,000 car thefts, one of the highest rates in the United States, to act with a sense of urgency?
Well, that criticism came as the councilman endorsed Sheila Dixon for mayor. We'll have more on that mayoral race later this hour.
Making headlines, an arrest is made in an alleged sexual assault in Leakin Park. Police say 46-year-old Charles Taylor is accused of attacking a 71-year-old woman in the park earlier this month. Police say Taylor started a conversation with her while walking along the Gwynns Falls Trail, then grabbed her and threatened her at gunpoint. He's facing multiple charges, including sex offenses and kidnapping.
And new tonight, the Maryland Supreme Court has declined for now to take up the Maryland Hemp Coalition's lawsuit against the state over hemp regulations. The group argues the pot licensing plan creates a monopoly and snuffed out hemp retailers. Back in October, after hearing testimony, a judge granted a temporary stop to the enforcement of the current cannabis laws in Maryland, allowing hemp retailers to open their doors again and start selling products.
Some hostages will soon be headed home. But what about the ones still being held? The latest on the war in Israel.
The court's decision makes it easier to get a gun in Maryland. The debate over the decision and the safety impact tonight.
It looks like it could be a two-horse race in the battle to become Baltimore's next mayor. A closer look at how the competition is shaping up between current Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon.
And we're starting to see a quieter pattern around the region. Good for any travelers before Thanksgiving. I'll let you know how it looks for the holiday coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
We have great people in Baltimore. I love this city, and I really want to bring us all together so that we can solve the problems of crime. We have vacant homes, we have food insecurity, and the biggest thing is youth violence, and we need to really get that under control.
Another candidate decides to run for mayor of Baltimore. Wendy Bozell held a news conference at City Hall announcing an endorsement from the Maryland Forward Party. She's a single mom, a Baltimore teacher, and president of the Upper Fells Point Improvement Association. Bozell says her top priorities include addressing juvenile crime, as you heard, vacant homes, and other key issues facing the city. While there are other candidates, polls indicate the election will likely come down to Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon. The battle between those two candidates already brewing. Fox 45's Olivia Dance has the latest on the race. Olivia.
Well, Kai, that's right. The race for mayor is already heating up, and residents are making it clear that they want to pick the candidate that will best tackle all of the crime here in Baltimore. Many residents in Baltimore are filled with fear.
We don't go anywhere anymore. You're scared to death to step out your door.
We're so scared we're moving because this is the fourth time our car has been either vandalized, broke into, or stolen.
Scared of all the crime, and political analyst John Dede says especially the increase in youth crime.
The horrificness of youth crime is what's scaring a lot of people. The fact that it's so brazen.
As crime plagues the city, it's game on in the race for mayor, with Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon currently the top candidates.
I have to deal with the city on a regular basis with my clients, and I can see the dysfunction, not in one agency, but practically in every agency. And that is reflected of the leadership.
Leadership that's failing the city is almost a laughable comment when my leadership has the city on pace to be under 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years.
Data shows a reduction in homicides around the same time as City State's Attorney Ivan Bates took office, and U.S. Attorney Eric Barron announced an Al Capone style of prosecution.
The reality is that people don't feel safe, and even though crime is going down a little bit, there's a team effort.
But Mayor Brandon Scott credits himself and programs like Monzi and Safe Streets for the reduction in homicides.
I love them both dearly. Their cases are made by police officers that work for Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City. We direct. The rest are done by us. All the enforcement is done by us.
According to a Fox 45 News poll asking, has Mayor Brandon Scott's crime plan worked? 93% of voters saying no. Meanwhile, Dixon was supposed to attend a campaign event on Tuesday, but her appearance was canceled after a double shooting near Mondawmin Mall. And the latest Goucher polls show if the election were held today, only 27% would vote to re-elect Mayor Scott and 39% would vote for Dixon.
I think we're starting to see where this could end up being just a two-person race. And the thing is, if it's only going to be really a two-person race, you're talking about two candidates who are a little bit unpopular, or a lot of it unpopular for most people, that are going to need to get about 40% of the vote.
And that latest Goucher poll also shows that 23% would prefer some other candidate besides Dixon or Scott, and that 8% are still undecided. For now, reporting live outside City Hall, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
We'll take you to live look tonight at the Beltway. Marylanders trying to get out of town to make their Thanksgiving celebrations tomorrow. The traffic not nearly as bad as it was last night with all that rain, but we are seeing some backups. It looks pretty steady there. Roads getting busy heading towards BWI. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax has the latest on what the weather's going to look like tonight, and then the big day, Kai, tomorrow for Turkey.
Big day tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, super excited for that. And we have great weather that's on the way, so really a nice and enjoyable Thanksgiving. The clouds that we have right now, those are going to clear. We're looking at plenty of sunshine for the day tomorrow, and temperatures right around average. But for anyone still traveling, we're back to mostly dry weather, not just here, but around much of the region. 55 currently over the state with mostly cloudy skies. And around the rest of Maryland, we're seeing a little more sunshine in southern Maryland and along parts of the eastern shore. Temperatures mainly in the 50s, a little bit cooler over in western Maryland where you can see the 30s. Around the region, notice on the HD radar, we are still seeing some winter weather across parts of New England, but the heavy rain has now pushed out, and that's over the Atlantic. We are mostly dry around the region, so for travelers, that's what you can expect for the night. There is the chance for an isolated shower, but otherwise nice and quiet here. Temperatures will drop to the upper 30s and the low 40s for a mild start to the day tomorrow, and then a gorgeous Thanksgiving forecast and really nice for Black Friday too. We'll have cooler temperatures that follow for the rest of the weekend though. We're talking the 40s and the low 50s and a mostly dry pattern over the next several days. Notice on the future scan, we are looking at clearing skies overnight. We'll wake up to plenty of sunshine tomorrow. Then for the afternoon, still looking nice and sunny with temperatures in the low to mid 50s, keeping us slightly above average for this time of year. More clouds will return for Friday morning. For any Black Friday shoppers, we are staying dry throughout the day. You'll just have to deal with those lingering clouds. Overnight, we drop to 41. It will be breezy at times. And tomorrow, we're also looking at breezy conditions with wind gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Otherwise, temperatures reach 56 with plenty of sunshine throughout the day for a beautiful Thanksgiving. This is followed by 55 on Black Friday. Then we drop to the 40s on Saturday. So very cool over the weekend. 50 on Sunday. And then for Cyber Monday, temperatures around 51, staying nice and dry. After that, 45 on Tuesday. And as we make our way into Wednesday, temperatures stay below average. We're only looking at highs in the mid 40s, and notice those low temperatures in the 20s. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone. Use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms right down to your street. Just go to the App Store and search WBFF to get started. A court strikes down a Maryland law that added some hurdles to buying a handgun. The impact lawmakers on both sides of the aisle say it will have on the state.
I'm Janae Bones in Washington with a look at why America's students are falling behind when it comes to AI use.
The debate over the use of AI in the classroom is heating up. While many schools are concerned about cheating, some experts say kids need to learn how to use it if the U.S. doesn't want to fall behind. The National Desk's Janae Bowens explains.
Well, I personally have never used AI.
America's young people are iffy about using artificial intelligence.
It would be tricky, especially with how fast these technologies are growing.
AI expert and college professor Dr. Lisa Palmer says our nation's students and educators need a perspective shift.
Fears from our education system about artificial intelligence being thought of as cheating has limited the use of it in school situations.
A survey from education tech company Chegg found 20% of American college students have used generative AI like ChatGPT or OpenAI for their studies. Kenya ranks the highest, with 63% of their college students using the technology.
Our response from a societal perspective has been less positive than some other countries have been.
Anthology found 10% of U.S. college students use AI writing tools frequently, compared to 23% of students from other countries.
Students definitely expressed a strong interest in increasing their use of AI moving forward. So while they may be slightly behind today, I don't think they will be for long.
More than 1 in 3 students say AI would revolutionize teaching and learning. However, Dr. Palmer believes the current pace of AI use could end up hurting the U.S.
We already don't have enough artificial intelligence talent.
Now, experts I spoke with say young and old Americans need to embrace and learn how to responsibly use AI so America's workforce is prepared for the future and can compete on a global level. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens for the National Desk.
A split in Annapolis on whether a new ruling will make Maryland less safe. The fallout after a court makes it easier to buy a handgun. A member of a state government group aimed at stopping hate speech suspended for her comments on Israel. The latest impact the war is having in Maryland.
Dozens of hostages may soon return home. I'm Atrell Nashar with the risks that come with this release deal and how Israel says Hamas might use it to their advantage.
We're back with our breaking news following the deadly explosion at the northern border that happened this afternoon. Right now, this is a live look at the Rainbow Bridge crossing, which runs over the Niagara River into Canada.
The FBI is at the scene investigating. This explosion happened on the U.S. side of the border. Witnesses saying a car sped towards the crossing, swerved, then crashed into a secondary search area, and the car exploded. 2 people inside that car were killed, and the border crossing has been damaged. 4 other border crossings in the area have been shut down as a precaution.
The White House says President Biden is closely following the investigation, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says law enforcement on their side is also working to determine what happened.
There are a lot of questions, and we are following up to try and get as many answers as rapidly as possible. We are in close contact with U.S. officials, and we'll continue to work closely with them. We will continue to be engaged. We will provide updates.
Well, we're joined now by Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert. General Teichert, we do want to mention General Teichert is currently running for U.S. Senate, but tonight you're speaking with us as a military expert. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And General, we're still learning about exactly what happened at the border today. What are the first steps in investigations like these?
Mary, all we know right now is that the FBI is investigating, but they are likely doing 2 primary things. Number one, they are very quickly using their forensics tools to see if there's anything physical or tangible that indicates that this was actually generated by an explosive, not just by a normal car crash. And then they're going back to scrub through their intelligence sources to see if there was anything prior to this event that would indicate that it was terrorism.
General Teichert, it seems like authorities and the media subsequently are kind of hitting the brakes on just outright saying this is terrorism. Is there a reason for that, and is that important?
Kai, I think it's important because, frankly, we don't know. By the nature of the incident, the rush to judgment was that it was something out of the ordinary. But because there was no indication thus far, based on intelligence or otherwise, of a credible nature of a specific threat, then it's best to take some enhanced security measures, but not automatically assume that this was terrorism.
If it is confirmed to be a terror incident, General, what are the next steps following the investigation?
The FBI has already stood up this interagency task force. They're in the lead. They're working also with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the Canadian side. And they're trying to determine whether this was terrorism, and then ultimately to determine the next steps of whether, if it is terrorism, what types of enhanced security measures would be wise to take in case this is more than just a lone wolf attack.
All right, we'll keep following the situation at the border. But General Teichert, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right now in Gaza, the fighting continues ahead of a planned pause, actually, in the war. This is footage from northern Gaza. You can see heavy smoke and damage on the ground as Israel continues its attacks. These new explosions came less than 20 hours after an agreement on a hostage release with Hamas. Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu has made it clear his forces will continue attacking Hamas until the pause begins, and the attacks will resume after the hostages are recovered.
The deal struck late last night with the help of negotiators from the U.S. and Qatar. At least 50 hostages, all of them women and children, will be returned to Israel. In exchange, 150 Palestinians held in Israel prisons will be released. Hamas will still have more than 150 hostages after the exchange. In order to facilitate that exchange, there will be a 4-day pause in fighting. Families of the hostages say they're on edge, waiting to find out if their loved ones will be coming home.
Any release is a blessing. It's just crazy to me that today is day 48. And not only do we not have more hostages released, but I don't even know if my mother is alive or not, which is crazy to me. It's absolutely nuts.
Well, tonight we have coverage from the fallout from that hostage deal, which happened next. What happens next, and also the impact the war is continuing to have here in Maryland.
That's right. We're going to begin with Atra El-Nashar and more on the next steps in this hostage release.
Israeli and American officials stating over and over, when it comes to a hostage release agreement with Hamas, nothing is certain until everything is finalized and executed, like whether the deal hurts or helps Israel's larger goal to destroy Hamas. Even the spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces acknowledges how Hamas may use the agreed-to 4-day pause in fighting.
One would hope that they would use it in order to care for civilians in the southern Gaza Strip. I fear that Hamas will use the pause in fighting in order to try to resupply and regroup.
For every additional 10 hostages Hamas frees, Israel agrees to pause fighting for another day. An extension the White House says it wants to see.
But of course, Hamas has proven to be anything but a humane group of people, and so we can't be sure exactly what they're going to do.
Before Israel's cabinet approved the deal Tuesday night, members of the conservative Religious Zionism Party argued that during any pauses, IDF forces would be vulnerable to Hamas attacks. Some party members ended up voting for the deal.
From an intelligence gathering standpoint, this almost certainly sets Israel back. The White House confirming both Israel and the U.S. will stop drone surveillance over Gaza for 6 hours during each day fighting is paused.
During that time, Israel agrees to release 150 Palestinian prisoners. The IDF says it will not include serious offenders. The government publishing 300 names of prisoners who could be released. All are either women and girls or boys who are 18 and under. Some, Israel says, are affiliated with Hamas.
Any list that the Israeli government was comfortable releasing in exchange for these hostages, the United States was going to be supportive of.
Israelis have been given a 24-hour period to review the list and file a legal objection against any of the prisoners. In Washington, I'm Mayoral Nashar reporting.
Now closer to home, a member of Maryland's newly formed Commission on Hate Crimes Response and Prevention is in the hot seat for anti-Semitic posts on social media. Attorney General Anthony Brown suspended Zainab Chowdhury from the commission. Chowdhury is the director of Maryland's Council on American Islamic Relations. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now as a group of lawmakers calls for stronger action from the AG's office. Amy?
Yes, Kai, a group of state delegates also accusing Zainab Chowdhury of spreading hate online. And among the social media posts of concern, take a look at this, is this Facebook post from Chowdhury on October 17th, which likens modern-day Israeli supporters to Hitler's Nazi party of the 1930s. And Chowdhury captioned the photo online saying, quote, "That moment when you become what you hated most." And following her suspension yesterday from the state's Hate Crimes Commission, this morning 7 state delegates wrote a letter to Attorney General Anthony Brown calling for Chowdhury to be removed from the commission entirely.
The sole purpose of this commission that Ms. Chowdhury serves on is to stop hate crimes. And someone who is fomenting hate crimes and posting anti-Semitic material just doesn't belong on that commission.
Now, just last week, I interviewed Zainab Chowdhury. She called for a Johns Hopkins doctor to be fired over violent anti-Palestinian posts, also on social media. Now she's facing similar criticism for her own posts online.
Amy, how is Chowdhury responding to her suspension from the state's Hate Crimes Commission?
Kai, she is defending herself. She released a lengthy statement this afternoon. She says she's the sole American Muslim on the state's Hate Crimes Commission. She called her posts, quote, protected free speech, and claims they were, quote, stripped from context. Fox 45 just wrapped up an interview with Chowdhury. We'll hear directly from her coming up at 5:30. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Dozens of Maryland Muslim groups are now calling on Attorney General Anthony Brown to reverse his decision temporarily suspending Chowdhury's role on the state's Hate Crimes Commission. In a letter today, supporters wrote in part, like Zainab, many members of the Maryland community have been critical of the Israel government's horrific crimes against the Palestinian people. Suspending Zainab for criticizing the Israeli government's horrific crimes and for expressing solidarity with the Palestinian people is unacceptable. This attack on her is an attack on all of us, and we will not accept it. You can find the full statement on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, that situation, just one example of the many controversial statements we have seen in Maryland since the start of the war. A Montgomery County teacher is under investigation for pushing conspiracy theories about Israel. Her post claiming Israelis are killing Palestinians to sell their organs. According to the Daily Wire, Montgomery County Schools is investigating. The words Holocaust 2.0 were written in chalk during a rally at the University of Maryland. The group organizing the rally says none of their members wrote the message and they quickly washed it off. Nonprofit CASA of Maryland is facing backlash over its executive director's comments on the war, expressing his steadfast support for Palestine's relentless fight for freedom. He later apologized.
After backlash from politicians in Baltimore and Annapolis, CASA took to Twitter to release a statement saying, in part, we wanted to shine a spotlight directly on the innocent Israeli and Palestinian children and families caught in the midst of this horrendous conflict. Instead, we cause dear friends pain and confusion. Project Baltimore for weeks has been trying to solve a mystery. The Baltimore City school system is out nearly $500,000 that has never been reimbursed by Baltimore City. Why is that? The money was paid by North Avenue to school police officers for overtime during the pandemic. North Avenue tells Fox 45 News the school system filed for reimbursement years ago, but the city never spent the money. Project Baltimore went to a recent news conference for Mayor Scott, where he had a different story of what happened.
We can only reimburse what we receive. We have not received that, and when we do, we'll pay it.
You have not received reimbursement?
It has not been received by the finance department. If we receive it, we will pay it like we do every bill.
Well, tonight at 10 o'clock, Project Baltimore takes you through the conflicting stories being given by government entities. And keep this in mind that $500,000 has already been paid to police officers, one of whom was indicted by the FBI for allegations of fraudulently obtaining $215,000 in overtime.
The Monday following Black Friday, known as Cyber Monday, has become one of the top shopping days of the year. But online shopping comes with risks. Scams that steal your money, personal information, or even download viruses onto your computer have never been more prevalent. Fox 45 News spoke with the Better Business Bureau this morning about what you need to know to protect yourself.
Make sure that you type the URL correctly, because a lot of scammers will impersonate a website by using Target with 2 T's or Best Buy with 2 B's.
Okay.
So check your URL.
Another one I thought was really good that I wouldn't have necessarily thought about because it's just usually that way, but you say keep your antivirus software up to date. Now's a really good time for that.
Perfect time. It's a way to notify you if you land on a website that's not secure. That kind of software can help notify you if you're on a bad website.
Even if you are not shopping, make sure you're on high alert. Many scams will reach out to you with emails or calls claiming to deliver a gift in exchange for personal information. Always best to hang up and contact companies directly before giving out any information.
Coming up after the break, a Maryland law is overturned, making it easier for people to get a gun. Why the law was deemed unconstitutional and the effect this ruling could have on gun laws in Maryland.
And we're getting ready for a beautiful Thanksgiving and Black Friday with temperatures in the mid-50s, but expect a cool down on Saturday with highs in the mid-40s. I'll have a closer look at what you can expect for the holiday in my full forecast.
Gun rights advocates are cheering a ruling from a federal appeals court calling Maryland's handgun licensure law unconstitutional. Jeff Abel shows us the ruling has ignited a firestorm of debate since it was announced late yesterday afternoon.
When the legislative session opened 7 years ago, the governor was there to issue a challenge.
We want to just come up with good ideas that help the citizens of our state.
One of those ideas was the approval of a handgun qualification license, a measure which required Marylanders purchasing handguns to first undergo a background check, attend a gun safety course, and wait up to 30 days for state approval before anyone could own a handgun.
It was ridiculous when they passed it. It did absolutely nothing to deal with crime in our state. And the only thing it accomplished was it created this massive hurdle for otherwise law-abiding citizens to own a firearm.
And now a federal appeals court has ruled that the measure tramples on Marylanders' constitutional rights to own a handgun. In a 2-to-1 ruling, the appeals court wrote that the challenged law restricts the ability of law-abiding adult citizens to possess handguns. And even though Maryland's law does not prohibit plaintiffs from owning handguns at some time in the future, it still prohibits them from owning handguns now.
Well, it tells me that the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals got it exactly right. The state has no right to impede your ability of a law-abiding citizen to get a handgun in Maryland to defend themselves.
Congressman Andy Harris called the decision a victory for Maryland. Senate President Bill Ferguson predicts it'll leave Maryland more dangerous, writing in a statement that this decision will unequivocally lead to more gun violence and firearm-related deaths. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott wrote in a statement, in a time where the proliferation of firearms is threatening the safety of our communities, we should be more, not less careful about who has access to these tools of violence.
This actually makes people safer, not less safe. The bottom line is the criminals are going to have the firearms. Now, law-abiding citizens who honestly live in a society that is increasingly violent are going to be able to defend themselves easier.
The ruling comes as the courts examine another gun law more recently passed in Maryland known as Senate Bill 1, which greatly restricts where Marylanders can carry handguns. Delegate Robin Grammer predicts that measure will also be ruled unconstitutional.
Every year, we pass another law that criminalizes gun ownership. And nothing has happened except violent crime has spiraled out of control.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
A frustration that Fox 45 has heard from legal gun owners in Maryland is a lack of regulation on illegal guns or people who are illegally owning or in possession of a gun. While they tell Fox 45 News they have had to sit through 16 hours of classes to obtain a wear and carry permit at a cost of $400, law enforcement says illegal guns, or again, those who own them illegally or are in possession of them illegally, are obtained within minutes.
They're stealing them from vehicles. They're stealing them from stores, smash and grabs. They are committing crimes with guns that are acquired in an illegal manner to begin with. And it's a huge, huge problem.
According to the ATF, more than 7,000 handguns were stolen last year in Maryland. Jeff mentioned Senate Bill 1, which limits where legal gun owners can bring their weapons in the state. Lawmakers pushed to pass that bill during the last legislative session, while several other bills relating to the crime didn't move forward. That includes the Violent Firearms Offender Act, which Republicans plan to reintroduce next session. Lawmakers also declined to make amendments to the key juvenile crime laws, which some say contributed to a surge in youth violence this year.
But basically, they kind of put, the criminal justice, the crime stuff on the back burner. And the problem is if you leave something on the back burner and the burner is on, the pot's going to explode. And what's happened is the pot has exploded.
For our full coverage on the state's crime crisis and the effort to hold lawmakers accountable, head to foxbaltimore.com. Well, last-minute holiday travel is happening right now. This is a live look at the lines at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. Tonight, for those with last-minute travel plans, this is what it looks like. The weather is shaping up to be really good for Thanksgiving. Here's meteorologist Jasmine Lomax. Jasmine.
Thanks, Kai. We are preparing for a beautiful day tomorrow, and temperatures pretty close to where they are right now. We sit at 55 with mostly cloudy skies over Baltimore, but we are nice and dry following a little bit of a rainy start to the day. Around the state, we're seeing those temperatures mostly in the 50s. We have a few 40s as we look west and even the 30s in Oakland, but all around we are dry across Maryland. Now, when we take a larger look at the region, we're seeing a few showers closer to Pittsburgh and even in parts of West Virginia. If you'll be traveling, you may be driving through a little bit of light rain if you're going that way. Otherwise, mostly dry around the region. We do have some winter weather, though, as we look toward New England. So keep that in mind if you still plan on traveling before the Thanksgiving holiday. Overnight across Maryland, we stay dry as our temperatures fall to the upper 30s and the low 40s. It'll be a pretty mild start to the day, and then an absolutely beautiful forecast. We'll have plenty of sunshine and mild temperatures. It also looks good for Black Friday, but for the rest of the weekend, you can expect a big cool down with temperatures in the 40s and the low 50s. We'll enjoy a nice and dry stretch into next week, so we could see worsened drought conditions around parts of the state. As we head into the night, clouds will gradually clear and we'll start with plenty of sunshine tomorrow. Then by the afternoon, still looking at lots of sunshine over the state as temperatures reach the low to mid 50s. Then once we make our way into Black Friday, we'll start with cloudy skies and keeping the clouds throughout the day. If you do plan on going shopping, we'll have nice and dry weather, just cloudy skies. 41 for the low temperature tonight. It'll be breezy at times with gusts up to 20 miles per hour. And even tomorrow, still looking at breezy conditions with gusts up to 25 miles per hour. Otherwise, it looks great for your Thanksgiving with plenty of sunshine. High temperatures will reach 56, keeping us just a hair above average. Then we're looking at 55 for Black Friday with mostly cloudy skies. 44, a big drop in temperatures on Saturday, then highs around 50 on Sunday. For Cyber Monday, we're looking at 51, but the rest of the week will be cooler with high temperatures in the mid-40s and lows in the 20s. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Coming up at 5 o'clock, holiday travel is expected to return to pre-pandemic levels. We'll have the latest. And there will be leftovers, but how long do those leftovers last? What you need to know to get the most out of your favorite foods. You know, for many people, and you might be one of them, November and December are packed with fabulous family holiday meals and leftovers. But this time of year can also be peak season for food poisoning if you're not careful. Megan Gillen has tips on storing your favorite leftovers safely this holiday season.
What's the second best holiday meal? Those leftovers. Obviously, Consumer Report says you can keep your favorite holiday foods safe and tasty beyond that one joyous meal by following some tips from Consumer Reports' food and health experts.
Foodborne illness-causing bacteria can grow on our favorite leftovers in just a few minutes, so you really need to get everything refrigerated within 2 hours.
When it's time to clear the table and pack up leftovers, instead of putting the whole dish in the fridge, it's better to separate food into smaller portions to help speed up cooling. And make sure to use storage containers that are tight enough to keep air out. Consumer Reports looked at silicone bags that you can wash and reuse. These W&P Porter bags are dishwasher safe and take up very little storage space. But Consumer Reports says take a look around your home and reuse those mason jars and other food-safe containers before you buy more stuff. And if you're not going to eat it within 3 to 4 days, freeze it.
If you want to freeze some of your favorite foods, the best thing you can do is get all of the air out. For me, there's nothing better at that than a vacuum sealer. So you can actually fit more food into the freezer, but you can also extend the life of frozen food up to a year or 2 instead of just a few months.
This Hamilton Beach NutriFresh is easy to wash. It was also one of the fastest vacuum sealers CR tested, which you'll appreciate if you're sealing up multiple bags of food. One thing you don't have to worry about, fruit pies. These can be stored loosely, covered on the counter if you're planning to eat it in 1 to 2 days. But put that pumpkin pie or any other egg-based or custard pie in the fridge. That is, if there's any left. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Coming up at 5 o'clock, an alarming new discovery shows just how severe the car theft problem is in Baltimore. Fox 45 News demands solutions from elected leaders. The 2024 mayoral race is heating up, the major issues facing the next leader of Baltimore.
I, for one, am not interested in rolling back.
One Maryland lawmaker making his stance on changes to juvenile justice laws clear, while others say there is no time to waste.
Photos circulating on social media of alleged stolen cars being dumped under a bridge. Fox 45 News is hearing from residents who say the car theft crisis is out of control.
And the race for mayor already top of mind for Baltimore voters. A look at the main concerns this election and where the top two candidates stand in the polls.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. We begin with breaking news out of Buffalo, New York, where federal authorities say they're investigating a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge crossing between the United States and Canada. This is basically Niagara Falls. Right now, we are hearing reports that at least one person inside that vehicle is dead. The incident happened this afternoon. Officials say the explosion came from a car entering the U.S. from the Canadian side of the border. According to police, the driver cleared the first checkpoint and was sent to a second for further inspection. They say the vehicle then exploded for reasons that are still unclear. In our last hour, we spoke with Air Force Brigadier General John Tykert on what the possible next steps could be if this is indeed a terrorist attack.
The FBI has already stood up this interagency task force. They're in the lead. They're working also with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the Canadian side. And they're trying to determine whether this was terrorism and then ultimately to determine the next steps of whether, if it is terrorism, what types of enhanced security measures would be wise to take in case this is more than just a lone wolf attack.
Well, Fox 45 News will continue to follow this developing story and bring you updates on air and online.
You would think that at some point when you steal 5, 6 cars, okay, we got a bump, we got to do something a little bit better.
It appears to be stolen cars being dumped in southwest Baltimore. Residents taking to social media to share pictures of the cars, raising questions tonight about if the area is even being monitored by police.
We have team coverage of the ongoing crime crisis happening across the state. We begin with Vincent Hill. He spoke with residents and activists about the concerns around this apparent dumping ground. Vincent?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, it appears that a lot of victims are taking the law into their own hands when it comes to looking for their stolen cars. A lot ending up right here under this overpass of I-95. Now, take a look at your screen here. These photos capture several stolen Hyundais and Kias. According to some comments on social media, victims have actually checked this area for their stolen cars as it's becoming known as a dumping ground. I spoke with a resident who doesn't want to go on camera, who's witnessed these cars being dumped firsthand. I also spoke with Marcus Strider of the Guardian Angels, who patrols the area. He says things are getting out of control.
We blame the car dealerships because they should have made them better so you didn't have to steal them. When realistically, you shouldn't have stole the cars. Crime's illegal, except in Baltimore.
Now, we did reach out to BPD about these cars to see if they were in fact stolen. We have not yet heard back, but we did just speak to a neighbor within the last 10 minutes who says he witnessed BPD towing those Hyundais and Kias out of the area. Kai and Mary?
And Vincent, what does the latest data show about the number of cars stolen in Baltimore this year?
Yeah, Mary, as of the 11th of this month, 9,720 cars have been stolen in the city. Of that, 452 were taken in carjackings. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Baltimore police say data also shows more than 38% of those arrested for car theft are juveniles, many of them arrested multiple times for the same crime. But only 2/3 of those suspects are reported to the Department of Juvenile Services, and only 5% end up serving time in a DJS facility. Concerned Baltimore residents telling the council they fear for their safety.
My community has been hit so hard from 2020 up until now with teenagers going crazy, and no one has done anything about them.
My biggest fear is being carjacked with my children in the car. And what am I supposed to do when 6 to 8 youth surround my car? What am I supposed to do? I can't fight back. What if they shoot me? What if they hurt me? What are my children supposed to do? We need to stop this and hold these kids accountable.
Lawmakers brought up those concerns during a juvenile justice hearing in Annapolis this month. They argue the Department of Juvenile Services needs more oversight.
It's so bad that you even have the parents of the juveniles in question starting to tell us, you know, we have no options. We need you to detain our kids so we have some kind of control here.
I sat on judicial proceedings for 14 of my 16 years in the Senate. We would have been howling right now, howling. I mean, we would have been like, this is unacceptable. We would have had a hearing and brought the Secretary of the Department of Juvenile Services in, okay? We all would have called for it and said, explain this, explain how he got let out, and explain the 14-year-old, and explain how this isn't going to happen again.
Lawmakers will soon be back in Annapolis tackling many of the issues for the 90-day legislative session.
Well, juvenile crime will no doubt be a major topic. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live right now. Mackenzie, what are you learning today?
Well, Kai and Mary, we know that there are a few Democratic lawmakers right now asking the public for patience when it comes to the current juvenile justice system before any major changes are made. But some prosecutors we're hearing from say there's no time to waste. From near the nation's capital to Baltimore, even in quiet suburban neighborhoods.
I've never thought of being robbed in my driveway.
Young people are committing crimes, and those crimes are getting the attention of some leaders around the state.
We have to address the public safety. We can't turn a blind eye to the public safety component of this problem.
The two laws at the center of the debate, one preventing kids 13 and younger from facing nonviolent misdemeanor charges, another requiring an attorney to be present during questioning of a juvenile by law enforcement. Several states' attorneys calling for change, especially when we're seeing car theft numbers around the state being driven up by young offenders.
Those would not be considered a crime of violence. So anyone from 10 to 12 who gets involved in something like that doesn't come to us. We can't charge them.
Really what we're seeing is just delaying this delinquent behavior that turns into adult criminal behavior. And we need to get to these youth sooner.
In Montgomery County Tuesday night,
juvenile justice is about reform. It's not about punitive actions.
Senator Will Smith, chair of the powerful Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee, says change takes time.
Laws that we put in place are going to take a couple of years to fully see the kind of the fruit of the foundations that we've laid and the seeds that we've planted.
And making his stance on major changes clear.
I, for one, am not interested in rolling back the reforms that we put in place last year.
What those tweaks to the laws will be haven't been clearly discussed, at least not publicly, by Democrats who control both chambers of the legislature. Rich Gibson, state's attorney in Howard County and president of the Maryland State's Attorneys Association, previously telling Fox 45 News he's optimistic there will be adjustments to current policy. Do you think that lawmakers will really take this seriously when session returns?
Yeah, I believe that lawmakers, again, we're all partners. I do believe they're acting in good faith.
In response to Senator Smith's latest comments, Gibson says Senator Smith has indicated he is willing to work with the prosecutors to draft tweaks to the existing law. For some leaders, though, comments like this from the leader of the Department of Juvenile Services.
Nationally and in Maryland, as juvenile incarceration has declined, so has juvenile crime.
Are creating more frustration than solutions.
My real concern is that there continues to be, at least to a small degree, some downplaying of the nature of the problem.
The statements of the Secretary about the falling numbers in terms of juvenile crime that's not what we've seen here in Montgomery County.
With conversations continuing surrounding how to tackle the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland, Democratic leadership indicating major changes to current laws aren't likely. Now, Senator Smith tells me that he believes there's more work that can be done to ensure there's better training so everyone understands what is allowed under the current juvenile justice laws. Meanwhile, Governor Moore says he plans to unveil his own juvenile crime plan, but the public has yet to see it. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
We have great people in Baltimore. I love this city, and I really want to bring us all together so that we can solve the problems of crime. We have vacant homes, we have food insecurity, and the biggest thing is youth violence, and we need to really get that under control.
Another candidate throwing her name into the Baltimore mayoral race, Wendy Bozell, holding a press conference at City Hall, announcing an endorsement for the Maryland Forward Party. She's a single mom, a Baltimore teacher, and president of the Upper Fells Point Improvement Association.
While there are other candidates lining up for the job, polls indicate the election will likely come down to Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon. The battle between those two candidates is already heating up.
Fox 45's Olivia Dance has the latest on the race.
The race for mayor is heating up, and residents are making it clear that they want to pick the candidate that will best tackle all of the crime here in Baltimore. Many residents in Baltimore are filled with fear.
We don't go anywhere anymore. You're scared to death to step out your door.
We're so scared we're moving because this is the fourth time our car has been either vandalized, broke into, or stolen.
Scared of all the crime, and political analyst John Dede says especially the increase in youth crime.
The horrificness of youth crime is what's scaring a lot of people. The fact that it's so brazen.
As crime plagues the city, it's game on in the race for mayor, with Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon currently the top candidates.
I have to deal with the city on a regular basis with my clients, and I can see the dysfunction, not in one agency, but practically in every agency. And that is reflected of the leadership.
Leadership that's failing the city is almost a laughable comment when my leadership has the city on pace to be under 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years.
Data shows a reduction in homicides around the same time as City State's Attorney Ivan Bates took office, and U.S. Attorney Eric Barron announced an Al Capone style of prosecution.
The reality is that people don't feel safe, and even though crime is going down a little bit, there's a team effort.
But Mayor Brandon Scott credits himself and programs like Monzi and Safe Streets for the reduction in homicides.
I love them both dearly. Their cases are made by police officers that work for Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City. We direct. The arrests are done by us. All the enforcement is done by us.
According to a Fox 45 News poll asking, has Mayor Brandon Scott's crime plan worked? 93% of voters saying no. Meanwhile, Dixon was supposed to attend a campaign event on Tuesday, but her appearance was canceled after a double shooting near Mondawmin Mall. And the latest Goucher polls show if the election were held today, only 27% would vote to re-elect Mayor Scott and 39% would vote for Dixon.
I think we're starting to see where this could end up being just a two-person race. And the thing is, if it's only going to be really a two-person race, you're talking about two candidates who are a little bit unpopular, or a lot of it unpopular for most people, that are going to need to get about 40% of the vote.
And that latest Goucher poll also shows that 23% would prefer some other candidate besides Dixon or Scott, and that 8% are still undecided. For now, reporting outside City Hall, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
And we continue to follow the breaking news tonight near Buffalo, New York. The governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul, is speaking about the vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge border crossing between the U.S. and Canada. Let's listen in.
That video will be released very shortly. As I said, we're not aware of any threats to this area, but I state the caveat that the investigation is ongoing. If you can imagine, this vehicle basically incinerated. Nothing is left but the engine. The pieces are scattered over 13, 14 booths. So it is a large scene. And it's going to take a lot of time for our federal law enforcement partners who are with me here today and I'll identify to be able to piece together the real story, to identify the make of the car. Obviously, there is not a license plate. I've been briefed by law enforcement for the last hour. New York State Police, Colonel Andy Crow, Colonel Allen, other law enforcement officials. I've been joined by Andy Bowker, who's the special agent in charge of the Customs and Border Patrol. I was also briefed by the SAC from the FBI. Also was on the phone with Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas. The FBI Director, Christopher Bray, has reached out. The White House has reached out. My staff has been in communication with all of them. I spoke with Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, Congressman Higgins, local law enforcement, as well as local elected officials, because the world is watching to find out what happened here. And again, at a time when there's such high anxiety, stress levels are already high, and we've been on heightened alert since October 7th. That's why it's so important for me to stand here and tell the world, based on what we know at this moment, and again, anything can change, there is no sign of terrorist activity with respect to this crash. We've identified that this is a local individual, a Western New Yorker, 2 individuals died in the vehicle. The Border Patrol individual working in the booth was injured. The booth literally protected that individual. They went to the hospital with minor injuries and have been released. There is also, again, the busiest travel day of the year. There's a major disruption. And first of all, our cross-border travel. Right now, the Rainbow Bridge will remain closed while law enforcement continues investigation. Again, this is a large...
All right, that is New York Governor Kathy Hochul giving an update about the vehicle explosion that happened just after noon today near Buffalo and the border between the U.S. and Canada. Again, the headline there, it does not look like it's terrorism. It looks like it was a local man who was involved in this car crash and explosion. Stay with us. We'll have much more coming up after the break.
With the Chiefs' loss to the Eagles on Monday Night Football, there is a new top dog in the AFC. Welcome into Sports Unlimited, where the Ravens are now the 1 seed in the AFC. But with 6 games remaining on that regular season slate, the last thing this team wants to do is to be content with where they're at right now.
It's better than it's good. It's where you want to be at this point, but it doesn't mean anything until after the last game in terms of playoff seeding. So, you get the lead, keep the lead. I guess it means something in that sense. So we control a certain amount of our destiny. I don't know what the tiebreakers would say, but to some degree we do, I guess. But really, we just got to keep winning. We got to take it one game at a time, be 1-0 this week, and that's really all our guys are talking about, and that's all they're thinking about.
I think we care less. It's we're 12 games in. We got 5 more to go, 5-6 more to go. And we have a lot of games in front of us. So none of that means anything. We got to go out there and take it one game at a time. And we got a big game coming up and a great opponent in the Chargers on Sunday. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Now in injury news, 3 Ravens made their returns to the practice field. You had Marlon Humphrey, Pepe Williams, and Ronnie Stanley all back here in Owings Mills, while Odell Beckham Jr., he did not participate. And if you're wondering and hoping and thinking about Lamar Jackson, what happened in that Bengals game, is his ankle okay? Full participant, no injury designation, no worries heading into Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. For now in Owings Mills, Rocco DeSangro for Sports Unlimited.
We are starting to cool down here and around the region, but we're also starting to dry out following a rainy start to the day. 54 currently and mostly cloudy over Baltimore. Around the rest of the state, temperatures are mainly in the 50s. We do have a few cooler spots as we look west, but again, mostly dry right now. And as we take a look around the region, a few showers in parts of Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and we're still seeing some winter weather across parts of New England, mainly around Maine. But the heavy rain that we had earlier on is now over the Atlantic, and it has cleared the region. We are looking at drier conditions overnight, and that's good for anyone planning on traveling today or tomorrow. Our temperatures will drop to the upper 30s and the low 40s with mostly cloudy skies to start, then clearing by daybreak, and that's going to lead to a beautiful Thanksgiving forecast. We'll have plenty of sunshine and temperatures slightly above average. Then as we head into the weekend, we'll have cooler temperatures. We're talking the 40s and the low 50s. After that, a dry start to the upcoming work week, and we're going to keep that dry pattern for much of the week. On the future scan, we start with clouds, but then tomorrow morning, waking up to plenty of sunshine. By the afternoon, still keeping it nice and sunny, and it looks good if you plan on spending some time outside for Thanksgiving. It will be breezy at times. Then clouds move in overnight, and that is how we start off Black Friday morning. By the afternoon, still looking at mostly cloudy skies, but we will stay nice and dry around the region. So good for shopping, and the rest of the weekend looks pretty good as well. 41 for the low tonight. That's followed by high temperatures around 56 for your Thanksgiving. We'll have plenty of sunshine, and we could have wind gusts up to 25 miles per hour. So keep that in mind. We're looking at 55 on Black Friday, the 40s and 50s for the rest of the weekend, 51 on Cyber Monday, and then the cooler mid-40s for the rest of the week. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Coming up, a member of a new commission on hate crimes in Maryland facing backlash for her comments on the Israel-Hamas war. Why she says her controversial posts are protected free speech.
Does Black Friday have a bleak future? I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. Why one college professor is predicting the demise of Black Friday.
Black Friday is no longer just a day, but really a week, with holiday sales starting in October. But one professor says 20 years from now, Black Friday may not even be a thing. The National Desk's Angela Brown explains why.
Black Friday, no longer just a day, a week or longer. Target offering Black Friday deals all week. Amazon kicking off its Black Friday sale on November 17th. Tom McGee, International Council of Shopping Centers.
Black Friday, Super Saturday, et cetera, they're still important. They're symbolic. But they're really not as meaningful to the whole holiday season.
Sam Kane, a finance teacher at Walsh College in Michigan, goes even further, telling the Washington Times, "I think the death of Black Friday is one of many phenomenon we will see unfold over the next 15 to 20 years. Pointing to boomers who control more wealth will be dying off in 15 to 20 years. Smart shopping expert Trey Bodge disagrees.
They were saying that, the baby boomers, they may not be around in that year to be shopping in the stores, but I don't think that in-store shopping is only for an older consumer.
Already Black Friday is evolving. A November report from Retail Drive found that 52% of Americans plan to skip Black Friday this year. One reason? Deals starting earlier.
I don't think that Black Friday is dying. I think that Black Friday is different. So the official kickoff of the holiday shopping season for me was the beginning of October, with Amazon Prime Day and Target and Walmart and Kohl's and Best Buy, all the stores throwing their hats in the ring as well.
A recent survey from the National Retail Federation says that 74% of consumers plan to shop during the 5-day Thanksgiving holiday. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
I have the moral responsibility to speak up and describe things for what they are.
Well, tonight, the son of one of the founding members of Hamas speaking out against his father, his pleas for a ceasefire and for the terrorist group to be destroyed. Maryland lawmakers calling for a member of a new commission on hate crime to be removed from the commission over her social media comments on Israel. The post in question as she responds to the backlash.
A member of Maryland's newly formed Commission on Hate Crimes Response and Prevention is on the hot seat for anti-Semitic posts on social media.
Attorney General Anthony Brown suspended Zainab Chowdhury from the commission. Chowdhury is the director of Maryland's Council on American Islamic Relations.
Tonight, Fox 45's Amy Simpson is learning a group of lawmakers is calling for stronger action from the AG's office.
A group of 7 state delegates accusing this woman of spreading hate online, now calling on Attorney General Anthony Brown to have her removed from the state's Hate Crimes Commission entirely. Repercussions of the Israel-Hamas war continue to be felt in the Baltimore region.
Zainab, Z-A-I-N-A-B.
Now Zainab Chowdhury, the executive director of Maryland's chapter of CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, facing consequences for sentiments shared online.
Over the last several weeks, Ms. Chowdhury has posted some really shocking and hateful comments on her social media.
Among the posts raising concern, this from October 17th, which likens modern-day Israeli supporters to Hitler's Nazi party of the 1930s. That moment when you become what you hated most, she captioned the photo.
We are pleased that the AG has suspended her.
Following Chowdhury's suspension from the state's Hate Crimes Commission, 7 lawmakers writing a letter to the AG himself, insisting stronger action is needed.
The sole purpose of this commission that Ms. Chowdhury serves on is to stop hate crimes. And someone who is fomenting hate crimes and posting anti-Semitic material just doesn't belong on that commission.
Yeah, this is a manufactured controversy that's designed to distract from the very real atrocities and the horrific violence that's being inflicted upon Palestinians in Gaza as we speak.
In a lengthy statement, Chowdhury defending herself, saying she's the sole American Muslim on the AG's Hate Crimes Commission. That role is more important now than ever before, she said, succumbing to pressure from dangerous defamatory smear campaigns designed to fuel the fires of anti-Muslim bigotry and chill free speech and to silence those advocating for justice. Undermines the mission and work of the commission. Also saying none of the posts on her personal account violated any known commission standards. Chowdhury calling her posts protected free speech and saying they've been stripped from context. False smears from anti-Palestinian and anti-Muslim extremists will not stop me and others from standing up for justice here and abroad, she said.
The expense of the constitutional rights of
in an interview this afternoon, Chowdhury called her suspension from the Hate Crimes Commission inappropriate.
I think that he is succumbing to pressure from pro-Israel voices who are attempting to silence anyone from speaking up. They have been rocked.
Just last week, Chowdhury spoke with Fox 45 News as she called for a Johns Hopkins doctor to be fired over violent anti-Palestinian posts online.
The damage that's been done is irreparable, and I think that at this point, it's too little too late. A leave is not enough. We are calling for him to be terminated. We are calling for his medical license to be revoked.
Now similar calls being levied over her own social media comments about the war in the Middle East.
We defend her right to say whatever outrageous and harmful things that she wants to say. But as a member of this hate crime commission, she needs to be held accountable for those comments.
And following today's calls for Chowdhury to be removed from the state's Hate Crimes Commission, today the Attorney General's office referring us back to its statement from yesterday, saying the AG has nothing further to add. In Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Dozens of Maryland Muslim groups are now calling on Attorney General Anthony Brown to reverse his decision temporarily suspending Ms. Chowdhury's role on the state's Hate Crimes Commission. In a letter today, supporters wrote in part, like Zainab, many members of the Maryland community have been critical of the Israel government's horrific crimes against the Palestinian people. Suspending Zainab for criticizing the Israeli government's horrific crimes and for expressing solidarity with the Palestinian people is unacceptable. This attack on her is an attack on all of us, and we will not accept it. You can find the full statement on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
That situation just one example of the many controversial statements we've seen in Maryland since the start of the war. A Montgomery County teacher is under investigation for pushing conspiracy theories about Israel. Her post claiming Israelis are killing Palestinians to sell their organs. According to the Daily Wire, Montgomery County Schools is investigating. The words Holocaust 2.0 were written in chalk during a rally at the University of Maryland. The group organizing that rally says none of their members wrote that message, and they quickly washed it off. Nonprofit CASA of Maryland is facing backlash over its executive director's comments on the war, expressing his steadfast support for Palestine's relentless fight for freedom.
Well, after backlash from politicians in Baltimore and Annapolis, CASA took to Twitter to release a statement saying in part, quote, "We wanted to shine a spotlight directly on the incident, on the innocent Israeli and Palestinian children and families caught in the midst of this horrendous conflict. Instead, we caused dear friends pain and confusion." The controversial comments come as the conflict in the Middle East continues. Yesterday, Israel and Hamas agreed to a temporary ceasefire, which includes releasing hostages. Hamas took roughly 240 people from Israel during its October 7th attack.
The Israeli government releasing a statement saying, in part, the government approved the outline for the first stage of achieving this goal, according to which at least 50 hostages, women and children, will be released for 4 days, during which there will be a lull in the fighting. Even with the deal finalized, the first release of the hostages is expected to take at least 24 hours, with the hostages being released in groups of 10 to 12 people at a time. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett says the pause will come with a price.
Our opponent has been hit badly. Hamas has been taking massive hits over the past several weeks. And it's at a point of a very tough point. That's a point where you typically don't want to lift them up from the floor and allow them to recuperate.
Naftali Bennett believes the only appropriate move is to pressure Hamas into disarming Gaza and releasing the hostages. In addition to his past role as prime minister, he also served as chief of staff for current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
And let's take a live look at Florida right now, where the son of one of the founding members of Hamas spoke to hundreds of people at a synagogue about why he believes his father's organization must be destroyed and taken out. Lena Zalbank with our Sinclair sister station in Palm Beach has details.
You know, it was a very interesting event listening to Mossab Hassan Youssef speak about his experiences witnessing his own father help to create this terrorist organization and feeling how he carries a little bit of a burden about what happened on October 7th. It was a quiet room as over 500 people listened to Mossab Hassan Youssef.
I have the moral responsibility to speak up and describe things for what they are.
Mossab is the son of one of the founding members of Hamas and was being groomed to take on his father's legacy before he decided to turn away from the terror group.
I remember him. It was just like a moment ago, how excited he was about the birth of Hamas.
Mossab says since the October 7th massacre, he has been speaking to audiences around the world about the importance of destroying Hamas.
I had seen the worst of Hamas, but nothing like this. What is very sad, that they're accusing Israel and accusing the Jewish people of committing genocide against the Palestinians, while Israel and the Jewish people are the ones who are actually the victims of a true genocide.
Mossab says he has traveled the world and learned about the Jewish struggles and how Nazi ideologies evolved. And during tonight's event, news broke out about Israel's deal with Hamas to free 50 hostages in return for a 4-day pause in fighting and freeing of Palestinian prisoners. Israel just approved the hostage deal with Hamas about 2 minutes ago. It just came in. What are your thoughts on that?
If it meant the release of, for example, dozens of Israeli hostages, I am pro that.
While Mossab agrees that Israel needs to do everything to get the hostages back home, he does believe that a pause will help Hamas.
First of all, it will give them a small amount of legitimacy that they would become
from a savage, barbaric group into a legitimate counterpart.
Now, years ago, Massab requested political asylum here in America, and he was granted that asylum, and just recently, he became a U.S. citizen.
For weeks, Project Baltimore has been trying to solve a mystery. Baltimore City Public Schools is out nearly $500,000 that's not been reimbursed by the city, and the question is why.
Yeah, that money was paid by North Avenue to school police officers for overtime during the pandemic. North Avenue tells Fox 45 News the school system filed for reimbursement years ago, but the city never sent the money. So Project Baltimore went to a recent news conference from Mayor Scott, where he had a different story of what happened.
We can only reimburse what we receive. We have not received that, and when we do, we'll pay it.
You have not received reimbursement?
It has not been received by the finance department. If we receive it, we will pay it like we do every bill.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, Project Baltimore takes you through the conflicting stories being given to us by government entities. And keep in mind, this $500,000 had already been paid to police officers, one of whom was indicted by the FBI for allegations of fraudulently obtaining $215,000 in overtime. Coming up, giving back to those in need, how one group is working to provide services and rehabilitation, and how you can get involved. Holiday travel is expected to hit peak levels. The tips on how to avoid major headaches for traveling.
And we're getting ready for a beautiful Thanksgiving with temperatures reaching the mid-50s. We'll be in the mid-50s again for Black Friday, but then on Saturday, much cooler. We're talking the mid-40s. I'll have a closer look at your holiday forecast and my Weather Authority forecast.